Today we're going to start something brand new, and that brand new thing is called vector art. We're going to move away from changing photographs, and we're going to begin to work on making our own brand new images. To do that, we're going to use a program called Inkscape. If you go into the Start menu into Programs, you should see the shortcut for Inkscape. And go ahead and fire that up. And what you should get will look something like this. We have our main canvas right here. And we have a toolbar on the left and a toolbar up here. To get started, let's look at a few of the tools that we have at our disposal. On the left-hand side, we're going to find most of the things that we need to do some basic stuff. You'll notice things like a rectangle tool, a circle tool. You'll notice a magnifying glass that will be for zooming. You'll see a pencil, and you'll see this pen. You'll even see one for making letters, as well as a paint bucket, and a few other things that you might have seen when you were using GIMP. If I click on the rectangle tool, I can draw a rectangle. If I click on the circle tool, I can draw a circle. Now, if I take my select arrow, I can click on either one of these two shapes. Click on the circle, and I click and drag, I can move that circle. I also have these arrows that quickly allow me to change the shape that I have selected. If I click once again, excuse me, then the arrows turn into rotating arrows, and it's kind of hard to see, but I'm actually rotating the circle. If I do the same thing on the square, it'd be a little bit more obvious what I'm actually doing. I'm actually going to go ahead and open up a new toolbar, which I'm going to have open most of the time, and that's this one right here. This is going to be my fill and stroke toolbar. I'm pretty much going to need to have this open almost all the time. Up top in this toolbar, I have three different tabs. I have fill, stroke, and stroke style. Fill, as you might imagine, is what color the object is filled with. Stroke refers to the outline of the shape. Right now, it is set to X, as in no stroke. Right now, if I go to flat color, I can change the color of that outline. You'll see that it's actually not really showing up because I need to go over to stroke style and change this width and make it bigger. The bigger the stroke, the thicker it gets. So I could typically kind of have a stroke that's more black. So once more, I have the fill, and right now I'm set on flat color. Stroke, which is also set on flat color, and stroke style, which will let me change the stroke size and also the shape of the stroke. So if I want to have like a dashed stroke, I could do that too. Okay, so once you stop, pause the video, go ahead, play around with a few shapes, learn how to move them around, change the colors, and see what you do. Let me point out one more thing about shapes, or objects really, is that they also have an order. Okay? Right now, the black circle, I'll make it blue, is on top of the orange square. If I have one of these objects selected, up here I have several options for ways I can change it. For one, I can quickly move it up and down. I can rotate it in certain ways. But I also have these things for lowering and raising it. So right now I have the square selected. If I want to raise that one step, that would put it on top. If I were to lower it, it would go back down. I can also raise it to the very top in case I had several things on the screen at once. I can do the same thing for the circle. If I click on the circle, I can raise it up or lower it. This is sort of like layers in GIMP, but as you'll see a little bit later, Inkscape also has a layers function, which we will be using quite a bit. Another tool we're going to be using quite a bit is going to be the path tool. And the path tool is going to make what's called a Bezier curve, which is actually making curved lines. And that's right here. If I just click the mouse, I can draw whatever shape I want to. And once I connect it, you see I have the shape. If I go to my stroke style and up the stroke style, make it a little bit easier to see. However, what's more fun about the Bezier tool is if I click, and then when I click the second time, I'm going to hold the button down and move the mouse. You're going to see I can make all kinds of different shapes. I'm going to let go of the mouse, and And the new line is also curved. When I click this time, I'm going to hold the mouse down again. And once again, by moving the mouse in certain directions, I change the curve. And each time I'm going to hold the mouse down when I click. And eventually I'm going to go ahead and connect them. Turn the stroke style up so I can see it. And you'll see I've made a curve. If I use this little node tool right here, I can actually take the nodes and change them in various ways. Either by using these handles, by grabbing the path itself, or by grabbing the node itself. This is going to take some getting used to. It's definitely going to take some practice. I still find that I'm learning how to make better and better shapes using these Bezier curves, but you will get there eventually, and most of the drawing that we're going to do is going to involve making these kinds of curves. I also want to point out that there are different kinds of nodes. You'll see that this node is in a diamond shape, and this node is in a square shape. This square shape node is one of these. It's a symmetric node, so if I take one of the handles, the changes that I make on one side are reflected in the other, which is where the idea of the symmetry comes from. If I were to switch it to this corner node, when I move a handle, I can move one handle and have no effect on the other handle. I can also click and drag and select multiple nodes at the same time, and I can make them smooth, or corner nodes, or all kinds of different options. And our project for today is going to involve us playing with this idea of the Bezier curve. So I'm going to go ahead and get my select tool. I'm going to click on this, press delete, click on this, press delete. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to center myself a little bit. The cool part about Inkscape is I can just press the plus button by itself to zoom in and the minus button by itself to zoom out. I think it's a little bit more intuitive than the GIMP way of doing things. The project for today is going to be spelling your name, your first name, using the Bezier tool. On the screen here, you'll see an example of what I'm talking about. I've spelled my first name using the Bezier tool. I've done sort of cartoonish letters, and I'm not that interested in making sure that they look perfect. And I've also put a black background behind it. I have sort of made a neon effect by using some blur. And I have made it so it looks like there's a reflection of my name underneath my name, which actually makes it look a little bit more realistic, as though the name is being reflected on sort of the black ground. So that's what we're set to do, and let's go ahead and get started. Back in Inkscape, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to take my Bezier tool right here. I'm going to begin to play around with making some curves. You should just take a few minutes right now, pause the video, and just play around and begin to understand how this works. Basically, what I want you to understand is that each time I'm doing this, I'm clicking and I'm holding it down, I'm moving the mouse, I'm letting go, moving the curve, but when I click again, I'm holding the mouse down. And you'll see that it's not coming out exactly the way I want it every time. I'm going to go ahead and close the loop, and that sort of finalizes it. It makes it real. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the stroke paint up now, just to make it easier to see. And I'm going to grab my node tool. And this is where I actually begin to play with this and make it look a little bit more like I was envisioning. Okay, so if it doesn't turn out the way you want it right away, that's fine. Not a problem. There's all kinds of things I can do to make this look more like I want it to. And don't forget to play around with these node tools. Maybe this one, I don't want it to be so symmetrical, so I'll change it to a corner node so that I can move this one, node, then click corner. Then I have more flexibility for changing one and not changing the other. Or maybe I want them all smooth. Maybe I'll get them all selected and I'll tell them all to be symmetric and smooth, but that doesn't turn out the way I want it, so I'll press Control Z. What I'm trying to get at here is that you need to experiment. You need to play around. You need to take your time. And it's okay if it doesn't come out the way you really want it to right away. When I do get it looking the way that I like, I'm going to go ahead and go to Fill. I'm going to turn it on from no fill, no paint, to flat paint. And I'm going to pick a color for the first letter. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my Bezier tool, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the next letter that I'm looking for. And like I said, this is just playing around a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and pause it so that I'm not going to waste your time making you watch the whole thing. But you should pause right now and go ahead and play around a little bit with the letters. wanted to unpause real quick to show you my sort of first draft. As you can see, I have some more work to do. I just sort of went ahead and threw down some paths. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to take my node tool and I'm going to work on these letters to make them look a little bit more like the way I want them to. But I want to make sure that you understand that I didn't get it right the first time and that I didn't get frustrated and give up. It just takes some time and some practice and some tweaking here and there. Here I am working on my M, and I realized I forgot to tell you something. And that's if I want to add a new node, if I just double click with my path tool, I can add a new node, and that's going to give me some greater flexibility for where things are moving and how they're going. Here I am working on my S, and I just can't quite get the back of this S to look the way I want it to. And it occurred to me that there's something else I didn't mention, and that's that you can delete nodes as well as add them. So if I click on this node right there, and I press the delete key on the keyboard, it actually got rid of that node, and it got that smoothness that I was looking for. So let me try clicking on that one too. And you'll see sometimes having simpler paths with fewer nodes actually gives me the effect I want. So don't be afraid to add nodes, but also don't be afraid to delete them as well. Ah, exactly what I wanted. Perfect. So here I am. I like the way my letters look. I want to point out a couple things. I did not just copy my E, I did two different E's. So if you have a letter that doubles up in your name, go ahead and make two of them. I try to use all different colors. I just chose some sort of more bright, flashy colors, and that's fine. What I'm going to do now is take my select tool, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a box around the entire thing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make the entire thing smaller. What I want to point out though is if I want these things to stay the same in terms of their height and their width, it's a good idea to hold down Control when I'm doing this. I'm going to hold down the Control key, and now everything scales proportionately. All right. If I let go of the Control key and scale, I might get it too fat or I might get it too skinny. So I hold down Control because it keeps that ratio between the height and the width the same. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make it small enough that it fits on this sort of imaginary page here, and I'm going to go ahead and move it right to here. If that looks too small, it's not too small, I just need to press the plus key to zoom in. Okay, here I am. So I have a few things left I need to do. First of all, I want that black background, and really all I'm going to do is I'm not really going to change the background at all. I'm just going to draw a square, make it black. Okay, so right now I came out yellow because the last color I used was yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and click the black down here. And of course right now the problem is that the black rectangle is on top of the letter. So I'm going to click with my select arrow on the black square, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it to go to the bottom. And that makes my letters sort of pop out here. So I'm going to raise them up just a little bit again. And actually, it might be a good time to teach you something. If I click on this letter, it's separate than that letter and that letter. They're all different right now. If I get them all selected, I can come up here, right here, to Group Selected Objects, or I could press Control G, and that turns them all. They go from being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate objects into one single object, and that makes it easier for me to move them around together. If I want to ungroup them, I can do that just as easily, and they'll go back to being the way they were. But for now, one group is just fine. Okay, so the next step I want to do is I want to make it a little bit more blurry. So you'll recall that in my first example, around my name, it looks like the letters are glowing. So kind of like they're like a neon sign, which is what I was going for. So here's how I'm going to do that. To get the effect that I really wanted, what I did is up here in the fill and stroke, I have one of these sliders. It's called blur, and it does exactly what you think it does. It blurs what you have. So clearly it does not take much blur to really lose what you're looking for. To get the effect that I really do want, I'm going to do a little trick here, and that is I'm going to leave this the way it is, and I'm going to make a copy of all these letters, and the copy is going to sit right on top of these letters. So I'm going to go ahead and press Control D. And what that did, you'll see, is it made a duplicate. The duplicate ends up being right on top of the original. Let me put it back. So now there are two copies of my name. And right now I have the newest one selected. So if I press blur on this one, I can blur it, and the bottom one stays the same so I can still read what it says. So I'm going to figure out how much blur I actually want. And for this, I think about that. You can experiment a little bit. It's really easy to go a little overboard. Maybe you like that look a little bit, but figure out what you like, what looks the best to you, and that's going to be the blur. So the last step for this project is to go ahead and add that reflection on the bottom, and that's going to be actually a lot easier than you might think. So right now I have I'm going to go ahead and get the whole thing selected again. So now what I have is I have the original name and the blur copy both together. Okay? I'm going to group them together. So now I have one thing, one object. That makes it a lot simpler. I'm going to press the Control-D button to duplicate this. So just to prove it to you, look, I have 2 copies. Okay, I'm going to put it back. I have 2 copies. I'm going to move this one down, and I'm going to take this really convenient button right here that says flip selected objects vertically. Aha, there I go. I'm going to line it up so that the letters are right underneath. They shouldn't probably be touching, something like that. And the one thing that's missing is the reflection should be a little less bright than the real thing. That's how reflections work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the opacity, which is how thick it is or how hard it is to see through it. I'm going to move it down so it's less opaque. The less opaque it is, the lighter it gets, and the more like a reflection it gets. So really the reflection should be really hard to see. You should barely be able to see it. You should know it's there, but I like the way that looks. So now I have my name, I have it glowing, and I have it reflected on my sort of imaginary floor. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this black box just so that it is just encompasses the name itself. And now it's time to save. Saving this is going to be a lot like saving in GIMP. There are going to be 2 ways for us to save. If I save it just in Inkscape by going up to File and Save As, which you should do, it's going to save it as an Inkscape file. The GIMP file was XCF. Okay. The Inkscape file is going to be an SVG. The problem with SVG is most computers aren't going to know what to do with an SVG file. Unless you have Inkscape on your computer, it's not going to be able to open it up. So I am going to save it as Save As and do a normal save, but I also have to do this thing down here called Export. So I'm going to export, and I'm going to tell it to export the drawing. That will pick everything that I've drawn on the page and save that. I'm going to go to Browse, and I'm going to pick the folder it's going to go into, so put it into your folder, give it a name, and press Save. Let's call this Demo, and press Save. Alright, and when I'm ready, I still have to press the Export button. It will not become a file in my folder until I press the Export button. So when I press the Export button, that comes up, and now in my folder I will find that file called demo, and this is actually going to be a PNG file. That is what you will turn into me. It will be demo.png or whatever you've called it .png. Do not turn in the SVG file to me. You will not get credit. I won't even look at it. So I hope you've had some fun trying out Inkscape for the first time. We're going to do some really neat, amazing things with this, and I'm really looking forward to teaching you.